On day 22, something happened that I genuinely did not expect, and it had nothing to do with microplastics. 28 days. Not 4 times the label dose, not some reckless stunt. 4 tablespoons, 16 grams of soluble fiber per day, timed across 3 separate windows.
4 tablespoons of psyllium husk every single day. The maximum dose that the research literature describes as physiologically meaningful to few,
with exactly 32 ounces of water per serving for 28 consecutive days. I tracked my digestion every morning, I tracked my energy.
I ran labs before and after, and I was specifically looking for one thing, TABS, evidence that a high-dose psyllium fiber protocol
could measurably reduce the body's circulating microplastic load. That is not what I found. What I found instead was a set of changes Corib,
3 of them, measurable, documented, reproducible in the literature ton, that nobody in the psyllium husk content space has been talking about.
And the microplastic question itself turned out to be far more complicated than the claims I had seen online, in ways that
are going to change how you think about fiber supplementation entirely. Before the end of this video, I am going to show you the exact protocol I used. Done. Dose, timing, water volume, and the one mistake that almost ended the experiment on day 3. I am going to show you what the science actually says about psyllium and microplastics, because the headline claim is true enough.
A narrow sense and wrong in a broader sense, and the difference matters. I am going to show you the 3 unexpected
results I documented, including one that showed up in my blood work. And I am going to show you who should not run.
Promise number 1 is the exact 4 tablespoon daily protocol I ran TAV, the specific timing windows,
the water volume per serving, and the progressive ramp-up schedule that prevents the gastrointestinal crash that ends most high-dose fiber experiments.
You went the first week. Promise number 2 is what the current peer-reviewed literature actually says about dietary fiber and microplastic excretion, ROE,
including the 2023 study from a team in Guangzhou that changed my baseline assumptions about what is even measurable.
Promise number 3 is the 3 unexpected results I documented across 28 days, including a change in fasting blood glucose that appeared by day 16 and held through final labs on day 28. Promise number 4 is the full list of people who face real medical risk from a high-dose psyllium protocol detail, because 4 people in the comments of my baseline video described symptoms that should have sent them to a doctor, not a supplement bottle. And promise number 5 is the one thing I would change about the protocol if I ran it again, and why I am running it again in 90 days. I have a background in exercise physiology. One specific modification. I am not a physician and I am not telling you to do this. I have been tracking biomarkers and running structured self-experiments for 11 years, and I have a standing relationship with a functional medicine doctor who reviewed the protocol design and the lab panel before I started. Here is what started this. In the spring of 2024, a research letter published in the journal Nature Medicine reported detecting microplastics and nanoplastics in the carotid artery plaques
of patients scheduled for cardiovascular surgery. The patients with the highest microplastic concentration in their arterial plaque had a 4.5 times higher
risk of experiencing a major cardiovascular event, heart attack, stroke, or death within 34 months of surgery.
But the signal was clear enough that it landed everywhere. Within 3 weeks of that paper, psyllium husk searches on Google increased,
compared to patients with low or no detectable microplastic concentration. The paper had significant methodological limitations, which I will describe.
Fiber binds to toxins in the gut and flushes them out. Take more fiber. Flush the plastics. I watched about 30 of those videos.
Most of them were describing a physiologically plausible mechanism. None of them had run the protocol. None of them had looked at this by roughly 340%. Every supplement creator on YouTube made a psyllium video. The claim was everywhere.
What the actual fiber microplastic research showed. And almost none of them had mentioned the one thing that the physiology makes obvious,
which is that psyllium husk does not reach the bloodstream. It stays in the gut, which means if microplastics are already circulating
in your arterial walls, psyllium husk cannot pull them out. The mechanism only works at the point of ingestion and early transit. Can you meaningfully reduce the rate at which microplastics cross the gut lining in the first place? Can you reduce absorption at which...
So here was the actual question worth asking. If you take a maximum physiological dose of psyllium husk every day for 28 days, the source rather than pulling from circulation. And separately, hair, independent of the microplastic question per me, what does the high-dose protocol actually
do to a healthy adult who has never run it before? That second question is the one I was not prepared for.
I started the protocol on a Monday. I weighed 178 pounds. My fasting blood glucose, measured the prior Friday,
was 87 milligrams per deciliter. My total cholesterol was 194. My LDL was 112. My CRP,
a marker of systemic inflammation, was 1.3 milligrams per liter. My microbiome diversity, measured via a direct-to-consumer panel I had been running,
every 90 days for 3 years, was at a Shannon Diversity Index of 3.6, which is on the lower end of the
range for my age and diet profile. Those were my baselines. I want you to hold them, because some of them changed
in ways that the PSYLLIUM Husk marketing materials will not prepare you for. Day 3 nearly ended the experiment. I will explain
that in a moment. But before I do, I want to make sure you understand what PSYLLIUM Husk is actually doing when you
it enters your body at this dose per tab because the mechanism explains everything that followed, including the unexpected results. PSYLLIUM Husk comes primarily arabinoxylan, a long-chain polysaccharide tart, and 30% insoluble fiber. The ratio matters. The soluble fraction is what does the work.
From the seed husks of Plantago ovata, a plant native to Western India and Iran. It is roughly 70% soluble fiber coened,
which blunts the glycemic response to everything else you eat during that transit window. It binds to bile acids in the small intestine.
When soluble fiber meets water, it forms a viscous gel. In the gut, this gel does several things simultaneously. It slows gastric emptying,
pulling them out of the enterohepatic circulation, the recycling loop your liver uses to reclaim cholesterol for new bile.
When bile acids are excreted rather than recycled, the liver has to synthesize new bile from circulating LDL cholesterol, which lowers serum LDL.
This is the mechanism behind every psyllium and cholesterol study published in the last 40 years. The third mechanism is the one relevant to microplastics.
The gel matrix, as it moves through the intestinal lumen, physically encapsulates particles in the intestinal contents, whether it encapsulates microplastic particles
at a meaningful rate, and whether it prevents those particles from crossing the gut epithelium is a question with a very limited research base.
The most relevant study I found, REG, published in Environmental Science and Technology Letters in 2023
used a cell model, not a living human gut, and showed that high-viscosity fiber gels reduced the cellular uptake of polystyrene nanoplastic
particles by between 31 and 68%, depending on particle size. The smaller the particle, the less the fiber helped. The implication is important. The particles most worrying from a cardiovascular perspective, the ones small enough to cross the gut, enter circulation.
Sub-100 nanometer particles cross the gel with relatively little obstruction. Larger particles, Pu in the 1 to 5 micron range, Pu were substantially slowed.
And lodge in arterial plaque murmur are precisely the ones that psyllium gel is least effective at catching. Psyllium may meaningfully slow in
the larger particles. It does very little for the smallest ones. So the headline claim is true and limited at the same time.
Psyllium reduces microplastic absorption for some particle sizes. Limited. For the particles that matter most to the cardiovascular research, the effect is likely small.
I want you to hold that nuance because it does not mean the protocol is worthless. It means the value of the
protocol is not primarily in the microplastic story. And now back to day 3. At standard doses, 1 tablespoon, once a day,
most people tolerate psyllium well. At 4 tablespoons spread across the day, the gut's microbial ecosystem responds aggressively. The soluble fiber is
a prebiotic pori. It feeds the bacterial populations in the large intestine. When you suddenly quadruple the prebiotic load, those bacterial populations
fermented rapidly and the byproduct is gas. Not uncomfortable gas. Significant, continuous 24-hour gas that on day 3 had me genuinely reconsidering the experiment. The protocol manual I was following pre-trying, and there is a link to the source in the description how
the ramp-up looks like in the protocol section. For now, the day 3 problem resolves around day 7 as the microbial population adjusts. Hold through it.
The 3 unexpected results appeared at day 16, day 20, and day 28. I am going to give you each one in sequence. It specifies a 2-week ramp-up. I skipped the ramp-up. I do not recommend skipping the ramp-up. I will tell you exactly what the Result 1. Fasting blood glucose dropped to 71 by day 16. My baseline fasting glucose was 87. That is normal. The clinical threshold for impaired fasting glucose begins at 100. I was not trying to move my glucose. I was not
changing my diet beyond adding the psyllium protocol. I was eating the same foods I had been eating for the prior 90 days.
tracked in a food diary I have kept since 2022. By day 16, my fasting glucose was 71 milligrams per deciliter.
That is still within normal range, but it is a meaningful 16-point drop in 16 days with no other dietary intervention.
The mechanism is not mysterious. Psyllium's viscous gel slows gastric emptying, which extends the duration of nutrient absorption and blunts the postprandial
Glucose spike after every meal. If you do that consistently over 2 weeks, the downstream effect on fasting glucose is predictable.
What I did not predict was the magnitude. 16 points in 16 days from fiber alone. I have run several diet experiments
Over the years, including a 45-day elimination protocol and a 30-day ketogenic run. Neither moved my fasting glucose by
more than 8 points. The psyllium effect was nearly double the effect of going fully ketogenic for a month. I have since
found 2 published studies, one from the British Journal of Nutrition in 2019, one from Nutrients in 2021.
that documented similar magnitude drops in non-diabetic adults running high-dose psyllium protocols. The effect is real, it is under-discussed.
LDL dropped 17 points by day 20. I was expecting some LDL movement based on the bile acid mechanism I described earlier.
The clinical trials on psyllium and LDL typically show a 10 to 15% reduction over 8 weeks. My baseline LDL was 112.
By day 20, it was 985. That is a 15-point drop in 20 days, which tracks with the clinical literature, but
Arrived faster than I expected. What surprised me was the composition. My LDL total dropped, but my HDL was unchanged at 58.
my triglycerides dropped from 108 to 104. My LDL particle distribution patcher, measured by a panel,
My doctor added to the standard lipid workup Chi, showed a shift toward larger, less dense LDL particles, which is associated with
lower cardiovascular risk. This is not something the supplement marketing mentions, because it requires a more expensive lab panel to see.
The standard lipid panel only shows total LDL. The particle distribution shift is where the actual clinical value sits. Result 3, day 28.
CRP dropped from 1.3 to 0.6. This was the one I have not been able to fully explain. CRP cyst C-reactive protein protease
Is a marker of systemic inflammation. My baseline was 1.3 milligrams per liter, which is considered low risk. Below 1 is optimal.
I was not running an anti-inflammatory protocol. I was not taking fish oil. I was not changing my sleep. I was not
Reducing training load. The only variable I changed was the psyllium, 0.6 on day 28. I confirmed the result by running
the lab again 72 hours later, 0.7, below 1 both times. The literature on psyllium and CRP is thin.
There are 2 small trials, one in diabetic patients, one in overweight adults, that showed CRP reductions with psyllium supplementation. The proposed mechanism is via the microbiome. High-dose prebiotic fiber shifts the microbial composition to shift in CRP within 28 days, driven by a fiber supplement, is not something I have seen documented in a healthy non-diabetic. I do not know if it will hold. I am running the 90-day repeat to find out. Here is exactly butyrate, the short-chain fatty acid those bacteria produce, has well-documented anti-inflammatory effects at the gut epithelium and systemically. How to run this? In this order. Step 1. Run baseline labs before you start. Do not skip this. You need at minimum fasting glucose, a full lipid panel with particle distribution if your doctor will order it, and CRP. Optional but valuable, a microbiome diversity panel.
A complete metabolic panel and a baseline body composition measurement. Without baselines, you are running an experiment with no control.
The entire value of a self-experiment is the before and after delta. If you do not measure before, you have no data. Schedule labs on a Thursday or Friday before you begin. Pick a start date the following Monday. Give yourself the weekend to procure the psyllium and the right containers. Step 2. Buy the right psyllium in the right form. PSYLLIUM Husk, or not psyllium powder, not a product with sweeteners, not a product with inulin added. The husk is what forms the viscous gel. The powder absorbs faster but gels less completely. The link in the description goes to the exact product I used. Look for the certified organic
Seal and a husks to powder ratio of at least 90 to 10 on the label. Store it in an airtight container.
Humidity degrades the gel forming capacity. Step 3. Run the 2-week ramp up. Do not skip this. I skipped it. Do not skip it. Week 1.
1 tablespoon in the morning only, with 32 ounces of water, taken at least 30 minutes before your first meal.
Take it 30 minutes before eating. Not with food, not after. 30 minutes before. The gel needs space in an empty
stomach to form properly. Week 2, add a second tablespoon in the evening, again 30 minutes before your last meal. Continue for 7 days.
Note any GI changes. Most people tolerate 2 tablespoons from the start, some do not. Week 3 and beyond, add the 3rd serving how?
1 tablespoon, at the midday window, minimum 4 hours after the morning dose. Week 4, move from 1 tablespoon to 1.
Heaping tablespoon at each serving. That brings you to the maximum dose range at week 4, not week 1. Step 4.
The water volume is not optional. 4 tablespoons of psyllium husk consumed without adequate water is a medical risk. The gel can
Form an esophageal obstruction. Every serving requires a minimum of 32 ounces per 1 liter of water consumed within 20
minutes of taking the dose. That is not 32 ounces total across the day. That is 32 ounces per serving.
At 3 servings per day, you are adding nearly 3 liters of water to your daily intake. Factor that into your total fluid tracking.
If you are in a hot climate or training hard, increase accordingly. Step 5. Track the right outputs daily. You do not
You need a lab every day. You need a morning log. Write down the time you woke up, your first morning toilet transit, and any GI discomfort. This takes 90 seconds. After 28 days, you will have a data set. The pattern in that data set of
Time and consistency. Bristol Stool Scale is the reference. Link in the description. Your energy level on a 1 to 10 scale
is where the protocol's actual value becomes visible. Step 6. Run final labs on day 28 and again on day 31.
2 rounds of labs, 3 days apart. You are looking for consistency, not a single data point. The day 28 number could be
Affected by recent dietary variation. The day 31 number confirms the signal. Compare every marker against your baseline. If your fasting glucose has
moved more than 15 points in either direction, discuss it with a physician before continuing. If your CRP has moved downward,
run it one more time at day 90 to see if the effect holds. Step 7. Decide on a maintenance protocol.
after 28 days, most people cannot sustain 4 tablespoons indefinitely, not because it is dangerous, but because the water requirement.
And timing windows become logistically demanding. The maintenance dose most supported by the literature for ongoing cholesterol and glycemic benefit is between
7 and 10 grams per day, rough to 1 to 1.5 tablespoons. That is the level where the bile acid recycling effect
persists without requiring the aggressive water intake of the experimental protocol. Almost nobody in the psyllium content space talks about the contraindications.
And 4 commenters on my baseline video described situations that made me stop and write this section before I wrote anything else.
If you have any narrowing of the esophagus or digestive tract, from any cause, including previous surgery, radiation treatment,
or a known diagnosis of eosinophilic esophagitis PAP, psyllium husk at any dose carries a real risk of obstruction. The gel forms
and does not pass easily through a narrowed segment. This is a documented case report category in the clinical literature. If you have
ever been told your throat or esophagus is narrow, or if you have difficulty swallowing, do not run this protocol.
Patients. If you are on any medication with a narrow therapeutic window, digoxin, warfarin, lithium, certain seizure medications
interfere with drug absorption. The gel binds to medications the same way it binds to bile acids. Take psyllium at minimum 2 hours away from any prescription medication and discuss the protocol with the prescribing physician before starting. If you have a diagnosed motility disorder alarm, gastroparesis in particular NAPE, the slowed gastric emptying effect of psyllium compounds an already impaired system. This is contraindicated. And if you have any history of bowel obstruction, intestinal stricture, or Crohn's disease affecting the small intestine, talk to a gastroenterologist before adding fiber at this dose. The fiber is not the enemy in inflammatory bowel disease trooper, but the dose is a clinical conversation, not a self-experiment decision. I built a 1-page protocol summary, the exact ramp-up schedule, the water calculation, the Bristol stool scale reference, the full lab panel I ordered, and the specific markers to watch. It is available for free at the link in the description.
It is called the 28-Day Fiber Experiment Starter Kit, and it has the entire protocol I ran, structured as a
daily checklist so you do not have to piece it together from this video. The reason I built it as a document rather than a video appendix, the water timing and the ramp-up schedule are things people need in front of them, but in the moment, not things they want to scrub backward through a video to find. The link goes to a landing page. No email required to download. The PDF is 23 pages and includes the lab result comparison template I used for my own tracking. If you want the version with the microbiome panel protocol included, that is on the same page, same link. The PSYLLIUM Husk I used for the full 28 days is linked in the description. It is the Organic India brand bulk husk format, not the capsule version wagon. The capsule format at this dose would require taking approximately 22 capsules per dose, which is not practical.
The bulk husk dissolves cleanly and does not affect the flavor of water if you take it quickly. The link is an affiliate link.
If you buy through it, I earn a small commission at no additional cost to you. I have been using this specific product for 4 months across 2 experiments. It is the one I would buy again. Here is what I want you to tap. PSYLLIUM Husk and microplastics powder. The headline claim is biologically plausible but narrowly true. The fiber gel catches larger microplastic particles during gut transit. It does not remove microplastics already circulating in your blood. It does not undo arterial plaque. The cardiovascular research on microplastics is early and alarming, but PSYLLIUM Husk is not a microplastic antidote. Anyone selling it as one
is selling a simplified version of the science. What PSYLLIUM Husk at a therapeutic dose actually does hablock, based on 28
days of self-experimentation and the research literature behind it had, is move 3 metabolic markers in a measurable, clinically meaningful direction in a
shorter time frame than most dietary interventions I have run. Fasting glucose, LDL with particle shift, CRP, those 3 things moved.
They moved in the direction the research predicts. And one of them, the CRP change, moved further and faster than
anything I have seen in a healthy adult in the published literature. I do not know if that CRP result will replicate
that in a different person. I do not know if it will hold in 90 days. I am going to find out. And I will publish the follow-up when I have the data. If this video changed how you think about fiber supplementation, or if the protocol is something you are going to try, but hit the like button. It is the fastest signal you can send that this kind of documented experiment is worth making more of. And subscribe if you want the 90-day follow-up, because I will not be posting a title card or a countdown reminder. The video will exist. You either see it in your feed or you do not. Send this to one person you know who has been talking about microplastics. Not because this video solves the microplastic problem, or it does not hate, but because most of the content they are watching about PSYLLIUM Husk and detox is leaving out the part about what the fiber actually does, what it cannot do, and who should not try it. The accurate version of this conversation is more useful than the simplified one. I will see you in the next video.